here we go. I've been going through some radical life changes ever since a horse came into my life and I heard him speaking. And not quite knowing what to do with that, I began to write about it, and it turns out people are responding. And that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me that you're here to share in this rather mysterious unfolding. The first book I wrote about this is When the Horses Whisper, came out 2013. And I'm going to read from this first book, and then come back and read from the sequel to When the Horses Whisper. I am excited because this is the first time in a very long time that I've been on horseback, and we're riding into a river. Titan and I cross last, and he steps gingerly over the rocky bottom. The other horses and their riders are already on the other bank when Titan and I make it across. Steady and sure-footed, he places one front foot up onto the muddy side, but his rear hoof hits a loose rock. He trips and recovers quickly, but suddenly I'm off his back and under the water. As I stand up, soaked head to toe and laughing, Titan looks back at me with embarrassment. I can see in his eyes and in his bearing that he is apologetic and ashamed. When it's time to return to the cabin retreat, I climb onto Titan for the ride back, and that's when I clearly hear Titan speak. Now, I don't mean that I interpret the look in his eyes, or read his body language, or assign some meaning to his actions. I actually hear him explain how bad he felt for failing to carry me safely. Not with words, of course, but through some other kind of communication. Titan is definitely speaking. It's as if something has opened inside of me, making it possible for me to hear him. All the way back from the river, Titan continues talking, mostly about how he's concerned about whether I'm okay, how humiliated he is, and how he has never before fallen with a rider, let alone caused a rider to fall off his back. Just before arriving at the stable, I hear him say, "And by the way, I don't need any more training. Would you please tell Debbie that?" I dismount, put away my helmet and bridle, wait for the other riders to leave, and then approach Debbie, Titan's owner. "I don't know how to explain this," I say, "but Titan says to tell you he doesn't need any more training." Debbie's taken aback. "He said that? Isn't that interesting?" she exclaims. I tell her all Titan had expressed, that he needs to have his own way now and then, and that once in a while he'd appreciate a break. Furthermore, he insists that he knows exactly how to perform his job as a trail horse and also as a therapeutic horse, and he's especially proud of his ability to take care of inexperienced riders. Later that night over dinner, out of earshot of the other guests, Debbie tells me she had recently commented to the stableman that Titan might need to go back into training. They'd been discussing his habit of ignoring an inexperienced rider on his back and of wandering off to eat, and they agreed that some refreshing training might be in order. Apparently, Titan was aware of their intentions and voicing his objections through me. This is chapter 8 from Waking to Beauty, and the reason why this book was written is because Beauty came to me in a waking dream and asked me to continue writing, and then I went to see her and asked her what was I supposed to be writing. This book is more autobiographical than the first, but the second half of it is all about the horses. When I enter the dining hall, Debbie, Shelley, and Nancy are enjoying a meal of freshly made chicken and bean empanadas. I share my frustration with the group. Beauty, the mare who called me there, has still yet to acknowledge me directly, I tell them. And whenever I have approached her, she shunned or threatened me with an aggressive stance, jerking her head away from my touch and baring her teeth when I have come too close. Beauty wields a lot of power in the herd, on par with the stallion Mono. And I'm supposed to prove to Beauty, a 1,000-pound animal that towers over my head, and the lead mare to boot, that she should let me dominate her? I move into the arena, looking at Beauty, who is standing on the far side of the barn, staring out across the gravel road in the opposite direction. I hear Shelley's voice calling from behind me. Most likely, she warns, Beauty won't respond to you at all. I pick up the whip that is lying on the ground. I am to use it to make Beauty trot, not by actually whipping her, but by intimidating that I can and will do so if need be. I look at the whip wrapped inside my palm, fingers clasped around its leather handle. Something doesn't feel right, and I hesitate. Were my great-great-grandparents whipped as enslaved humans? I don't want to force any animal or any human being, for that matter, to submit to my will solely to establish my power. I'd train a dog not to urinate in the house and a cat to use a litter box to poop. I'd punish a dog for biting a child and forbid a cat to claw at my wool carpets, but to wield my power just for the sake of doing so seems awfully slave master-like to me. Why am I doing this? Shelley, Debbie, and Nancy watch quietly. I am solemn, silent, standing still in the center of the arena. Staring at Beauty and considering what to do, I remind myself of Debbie saying, "It's just a game to them." I close my eyes and focus on my breathing as Shelley has instructed. But what I do next is a deviation from the direction she's given on how to play the game. I put the whip down on the ground. Then I walk over to Beauty's side and whisper at her ear, saying, "I have observed and honored your power, and now it's time for you to feel and respond to mine." "What is Rosa doing?" I hear Shelley ask the others from behind their seats. "It looks like she's saying something to Beauty," Nancy replies. "She won't be able to just talk to her like this and talk her into it," Shelley returns. Their voices fade from my attention as I sense into Beauty's presence, her black eyes locking into a gaze with my own. She's no longer ignoring me. I feel her energetic response as a direct challenge, as if saying, "Let me see you make me." I step back into the center of the arena, picking up the whip, taking a deep grounding inhalation. As I do so, I imagine myself as being filled with a powerful, radiant blue energy. Beauty is standing by the fence to my left, only now she is looking in my direction. Exhaling, I extend my arm out to the left side, my index fingers pointing. In my right hand is the whip. Taking in a deep breath, I snap it into the air and then smack it down into the ground, yelling, "Ha!" The gorgeous black mare with the white streaked face takes off in a slow trot around the circle, her mane bouncing and hooves lifting in rhythmic gaiety. Debbie hops up from her seat, grabs a chair and a pole, and enters the arena. "Here, make her jump over this," she tells me, as she balances the pole between the rail and the chair, creating a makeshift jump about 2 feet high. Once again, I command Beauty to run, which she does for a bit, but then she stops at the fence by the gelding, stubbornly refusing to move. As with Beauty, I have been exerting myself, turning and running behind her as she runs in the circle in order to keep pressure on her, and I'm out of breath. I pause to collect myself. Once my heart rate slows down a bit, I approach her again. "We are not finished playing yet," I state. "You will continue to run," out loud in a voice that feels commanding and clear. Using my creative mental capacity, I envision a burst of energy coming from me, pushing against her rump. Then I whack the whip down hard on the ground and forcefully holler another, "Huh!" Beauty takes off, running faster this time. With me in the center, using the whip, she jumps over the pole before trotting back to where the other horses are gathered. Panting, she stands staring at me as if to ask, "What are you going to do now?" I catch my breath and close my eyes, centering in again, moving my awareness back into my core. This has become a fun game for us both, it seems. There is a powerful, beautiful energy pulsating inside of me that I am now sensing. I realize Beauty has sensed it too. "I think she's challenging you," Debbie yells. "She wants you to make her jump higher." I open my eyes, wondering who's actually challenging me now, Debbie, Beauty, or both of them. I walk over to the makeshift jump and lift the bar to the top of the chair, which raises to about 3.5 feet. The energy I now sense inside me rises from my gut into my chest, filling my torso with radiant power. Moving back towards Beauty, I lock eyes with her, lift my left hand, and point for her to run to the jump. Smack! I slam the whip down behind her rear hooves. Beauty takes off running again, circling the arena, but she sidesteps, trying to avoid the jump. Whirling behind her and yelling, "Hoo, hoo, hoo!" I throw more of my focused energy towards her, moving her back in the direction of the raised pole. Beauty jumps it, runs around the ring again, and then jumps it for a second time. The women on the rail are hooping, and I feel great. I had discovered the presence of energy and power inside of me. Able to stand my ground, I understood that such power is not about an egoistic need to feel superior, but about knowing what and who I am in the core of my being. True power is about mutual trust, held in exchange between one living being and another. I stand still. Beauty does as well. We face one another. I bend at the waist and lower my head in a bow, exhaling. We are done. Walking to Beauty's side, I place my hand on the top of her neck. Slowly but surely, she lowers her head toward the ground in honoring me, and as she does, I humbly am honoring her, beginning to realize why I have come here and that Beauty's teaching had begun.